Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
So I'm chatting with Debbie Stone. We call the Fire Monkey here on Big Blend Radio. She is a world traveler, a travel writer, and she loves her adventures in national parks. You can hear her on Big Blend Radio every fourth Tuesday. So just type in bigblendradio.com for that. But, it's interesting. She's always talking about destinations that she goes to. And I know she's always on this mode to go and see all the national parks in the United States. There's 62 or 63? I can't keep up with them because we always get new ones. But she recently read a book, so she's actually coming on the show to talk about a book. So welcome back, Debbie. How are you, Fire Monkey?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's always good. But this is funny that you're talking about a book. So it's interesting, though. Don't you love reading other people's stories? You know, even though you're a travel writer and an adventurer and a world traveler, it's kind of cool to see how people go through their adventures. And obviously, this lady who wrote the book, Emily Pennington, had this, year of going to all the national parks. But it always gets personal, doesn't it?
I think so. I love reading other people's travel writing, their logs, their stories, books about traveling. And this one was very interesting to me just because, as you mentioned, I'm very interested in visiting all the national parks. And so when I saw that this woman had spent a year that she carved away to do exactly that, I thought, oh, I have to read this because I'm really curious about her impressions about the different national parks, and also, how did she, what did she do? How did she budget this? How did she, work this? How did she get around? All that kind of stuff. And, hers is a very personal journey. The book is called Feral, Losing Myself and Finding My Way in America's National Parks by Emily Pennington. It came out in early February. And it's a travel log, but it is a really, I think, raw and candid travel log about her experiences on this year-long journey that she went on. And it was a dream of hers that she had been wanting. It kind of simmered in her for a while. And nature and the parks were a big part of her life, and she always went to them for as she said, a mental health tune-up. And when she wanted to get some refuge, when she wanted to get solace, and she loved being outdoors. She's a hiker, and it just helped clear her mind. And I think she thought about, the fact that she could do this for a year. What epiphanies could she have during this adventure? Not only about nature and surroundings and climate change and everything else, but personally about herself.
Mm. There's something too that she went on her own. I think that's
right.
A whole different thing, because you think about hiking by yourself, being in some areas that are very remote, and then some parks are crowded and there's a lot of people, which always annoys us. But I'm just saying, that's the whole thing. Our whole thing on nationalparktraveling.com and our Parks and Travel magazine is, hey, go to our parks, but we don't want to love our parks to death, right? So there's this balance.
Yeah,
so
I think that there's a balance.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a definite balance, and sometimes she did have company. She did have somebody who would come with her. It was an ex-boyfriend, and he was there for some of it, and then when he left, and she did a lot of it on her own. I know that she said that her family, her friends were very supportive, but her mother, of course, wondered about safety, like most people, mothers would do, and like you said, some remote areas, and that she also had her own fears about the journey. She said that somebody one of her biggest ones was that random policeman or locals would wake her up in the middle of the night and make her move her van, or that she would get injured while hiking alone and not have a way to communicate and get help. But she said the latter problem she was able to deal with because her partner at the time got her a Garmin InReach Mini for Christmas, which is like a palm-sized satellite communicator, which helps maintain when you're off the grid. You can maintain contact, which is a lifesaver, And, she had a lot of challenges. She got sick. She broke up with somebody that she was very serious about. She had anxiety, and she's very, very candid and open about all of these issues. And, but, I said to her, how did you keep going? And she just said she felt she needed to prove something to herself. And she, wanted to get to know the country in a new and deep way and hear what each place had to offer her.
I love it. I love it because there is something. I mean, it's like people that go and do the Appalachian Trail, and things like that. These
Right.
kind of commitments that you make, it's like you can't go backwards once you make them, right? It's like
Right.
you want to fulfill that. Otherwise, the rest of your life, you're going to go, dude, I, chickened out of it, and that
Right.
just is never going to sit well. But I love that. And,
Right.
there's just, when you go out in nature and even going to national parks, there's a lot of history. I think there's a connection in there. Did she talk about that part at all in her book about connecting with history, not just nature, but history too? Because I think there's something about that when you go to these parks and in these wild places that you realize other people, indigenous people especially, have been there and set foot too.
Absolutely. And how, it's interesting to learn, how did a park become a park? Why? What was the reason that, it was allowed to become a national park, or was it a national monument and then it became a national park? And what reason?
Like Gateway. She didn't like Gateway Park, National Park.
Yeah, she was not, that was, and she said her favorites I asked her what her favorites were, and she loved Gates of the Arctic in Alaska, and she loved
That's
Capitol
huge.
Reef in Utah, Big Bend in West Texas, but, she said Missouri's Gateway Arch it just didn't appeal to her. She, it was like, it was an urban park. It's in the middle of downtown St. Louis, which it is, and she thought that it just stuck out in this urban environment,
Do you know,
and
I had a hard time getting to that park, and Nancy and I were there, and we were on a time issue, but we thought, let's just go to at least see it.
Right.
And it was during the pandemic, and St. Louis was under construction, and I ended up driving the wrong way down a one-way road for quite a while, and realized I got us so twirled around, and next thing I know, I'm on the highway to Chicago going, this is completely the wrong way. And those highways. I know because Chicago.
Yes.
And I'm like, don't take me to downtown Chicago. Well, later I found myself in downtown Chicago at night on a Friday night with everybody zigzagging around and went, no, what are you doing to me? But it was destined to happen. I remember thinking of you. And I think we talked about it on one of the shows. I was like, Fire Monkey, why can't I just push a button and you get me out of here? Or at least tell me where to go get that pizza. But yeah, we never did get to the Gateway. We were right there. You could see it.
Oh no.
But we couldn't. Because they were closing roads, opening, they were just, it was a mess there. And it wasn't, that's got to happen in our country. And half our country is under construction right now on the roads.
Absolutely.
Which we do want that. Even though it's a pain in the butt, we want it. And I'm tired of potholes and the poor shocks on our car, But I can't really comment on what she experienced until we go there. But I know even on Facebook, I'm a part of all these national park groups, and there's like a war going on about it, about the Gateway.
Yeah, I think, and but put it this way, if there was one park that disappointed you out of all those parks, I think that's pretty darn good. I think she took every park and in it instead, and she found what she felt was most rewarding about each place, and I think some parks for her, she maybe didn't spend as much time as other parks, and I think what her pearls of wisdom, I think, were that she would have appreciated spending more time than a year. She said, maybe a course of 18 to 24 months.
Yeah, yeah.
because she sometimes felt rushed, and which is opposite of what you want, which is to kind of slow down, as she said, listen to nature, and really take the time to take it all in, as opposed to saying, okay, I've got to go to the next one,
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah, that's how Nancy and I ended up being on the road full time. Because,
Yeah.
and then you circle back, but then you never leave satisfied, because you always know that there's so much more that you could have done and should have done. But I think that's still a beauty too, because, okay, go back. You can't do it all. And don't you feel that as a travel writer, that you're like, I wanted to go that one more place, or that one more hiking trail,
Right. Right.
So,
no, I completely agree. But anyway, she thinks that, she had some advice for people, if people are interested in doing something, and what they should, consider. And, the book, I found the book highly interesting, informative, entertaining. It was very, her perspective, well, like I said, was extremely deep in terms of what she got out of things and what happened to her and her experiences. So I urge people, if they're interested in a travel log, or if they're ever interested in even doing something remotely like that this would be a good thing for them to read.
I love it also because you talk about that. She says that you don't have to be like as you say, and there's some big macho dude to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's really true.
Yeah.
Look at Nancy and I. I mean, we're not, young athletes who, won an Olympic medal or anything. And the national parks are set up for everyone. There's accessibility, depending on what you need. There's boardwalks. They've done so much to make it accessible for people. So I think that is one of the first things we realized when we started the tour, is that people didn't realize that our national parks are for everyone. That was the first thing we learned. So it's interesting to see what you said about that. So I got to go read it. Did you read it as a physical copy or a Kindle? Just curious.
No, I received a physical copy.
You got the physical. Do you like that? Do you prefer that as a reader?
I usually read off my pad. I have for many years. So it was actually quite nice to have the book, and I enjoyed it, and I, kind of earmarked places that I thought was interesting, and, wrote down some questions as I was reading it. I don't read books, anymore, books per se, with the hard copy of a book or paperback. Everything is done online or on my pad or whatever. And so it was really kind of a very refreshing, and also reminded me how much I love having a book in my hands.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everyone, again, the book is called Feral: Losing Myself and Finding My Way in America's National Parks. It's by Emily Pennington. Go get it at your favorite place. If it's Amazon, all of those places. Bookshop.org does a good job for working with independent bookstores. And you can also go to your local bookstore if you have one and ask for it if it's not in there. So keep up with that. So thanks so much, Fire Monkey.
You're welcome.